5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National IPR Center and Motion Picture Association of America Digital Piracy event. I'm Steve Francis, the director of the National IPR Center, and I'm honored to welcome Mr. Derek Benner, the Executive Associate Director for Homeland Security Investigations, and Ms. Karen Temple, the Senior Executive Vice President and Global General Counsel with MPA, who will be signing this very important Memorandum of Understanding. This agreement today is extremely symbolic because it solidifies the long-lasting relationship between the National IPR Center and MPA. The rise of digital streaming has presented new challenges when it comes to copyright protection for both the content creative industry and for law enforcement agencies. Technology has helped piracy evolve into a crime that is no longer restricted to the confines of hand-to-hand sales of illegally pirated media. Global digital piracy is extremely harmful to the global economy and costs the US economy an average of $29.2 billion each year. Today is also very important because the National IPR Center is officially launching Operation Intangibles, a global digital piracy initiative which will leverage the IPR Center resources from both HSI and the FBI. Operation Intangibles will prioritize digital piracy investigations for HSI and leverage our global footprint by working with our foreign law enforcement partners to identify, disrupt, and dismantle these criminal networks that continue to harm the global economy by stealing from our innovators and creators. And now, I'd like to turn it over to our biggest supporter and champion of the National IPR Center, Mr. Derek Benner.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's great to be here today. Karen, thank you for joining us today. We were just talking about a year ago, almost to the day, we were fortunate enough to travel out to Los Angeles with the team and meet with the members of the Motion Picture Association. And during that time, my goal was to commit that HSI would bolster our efforts to combat digital piracy. And we'd made several efforts over the last 10 years, but I think my initial posture in going to the MPA again was to reaffirm and recommit to this important work that we do together. So that was the jumping off point for where we sit today. And since that time, we had a digital piracy conference in December of last year here at the IPR Center. We had a packed room, great opportunity to collaborate with industry, with our agents from the field who are working these investigations across the country. And following that summit, we've provided some additional resources to Steve Francis' shop at the IPR Center to specifically work these types of cases. And as Steve mentioned, developed an operational platform called Operation Intangibles that marks kind of another step in this process that's culminating today with Karen and I. So clearly the rise of digital streaming presents new challenges when it comes to copyright protection for both the content creative industry and, of course, law enforcement. The key factor, obviously, is technology, which has helped evolve piracy into a crime that is no longer restricted to the confines of hand-to-hand sales of illegally pirated media. We all know that the problem exists, but it is very difficult to quantify the effects that these criminal acts have on all of us in our economy. Digital piracy deprives content creative industry of millions of dollars, we know that. Trickle-down cost in terms of lost jobs throughout multiple industries around the world, that's another factor. And the cost of corollary crimes on consumers, such as hidden malware, identity, and credit card fraud, also is a part of the problem. So when consumers download, stream, or torrent pirated items such as movies and TV shows, they deprive US companies and workers of their income, and they feed a criminal enterprise whose profits support organized criminal endeavors. IP enforcement is a key effort in protecting the economy and legitimate business, protecting the health and safety of American consumers, and tackling domestic and international criminal organizations. Pirated goods undermine the economic vitality of the United States by reducing sales of legitimate goods and by reducing employment and incentives to develop new products and tax revenues. Digital piracy is not a victimless crime. Victims are American businesses, trademark holders, and the people who manufacture the real products and sell them. Annually, IP theft is more than $1 billion and presents several negative consequences to the United States. It destabilizes the job market, reduces the amount of revenue across all levels of government, and costs American businesses money. Criminal organizations use illicit proceeds gained from IP theft to fund other large-scale criminal enterprises. Most importantly, though, pirated goods pose a safety risk as they can deliver malware, harming your financial and cybersecurity. Illegal streaming sites can deliver malware that will enable hackers to steal credit card information, bank passwords, and even your identity. The malware can make you vulnerable to ransomware, locking up your valuable data until you pay the criminals what they demand. Hackers use pirate devices and apps to invade your home network and search for personal or financial information on other devices in your home. And the worst part is, whenever you plug an untrustworthy device into your network, bypassing your router's firewall, you've effectively invited criminals into your homes. We know that 44% of pirated streaming device users report malware attacks. HSI, through the IPR and with the Motion Picture Association, through this Memorandum of Understanding, engage in a new endeavor aimed at countering digital piracy and further protect a vital sector of the U.S. economy by developing a comprehensive strategy for coordinated public and private sector efforts that will disrupt and combat all forms of digital piracy. This joint MOU, among other things, focuses on outreach and training efforts and developing comprehensive lead referral packages containing information related to suspected digital piracy and/or copyright infringement activities as appropriate for HSI criminal investigators. The HSI partnership with MPA provides critical new opportunities to assist law enforcement to conduct investigations of persons and criminal organizations involved in the illegal act of duplicating, copying, or sharing digital works without the permission of the copyright holders. And this certainly impacts the content creative industries around the globe. I really want to sincerely thank Karen, Senior Executive Vice President and Global General Counsel for MPA, for joining us today and to mark this important cooperation agreement. Thank you, Karen.
Well, thank you. It is a great pleasure to be here today on behalf of the Motion Picture Association to sign this historic partnership between the MPA and the IPR Center. I have personally followed the work of the IPR Center as far back as my own time at the Department of Justice and more recently at the United States Copyright Office. I know how dedicated and committed the IPR Center and its multiple law enforcement partners are to effectively combating the harms caused by illegal counterfeit goods. IP theft affects us in multiple ways, introducing unsafe products into the market, causing the loss of billions of dollars to the U.S. economy, and affecting the livelihoods of thousands of everyday American workers in the entertainment industry, from actors to makeup artists, lighting technicians, editors, composers, and costume designers. And the money diverted from these American workers goes straight into the pockets of large criminal organizations. Recent reports, for example, show that illicit IPTV pirate services are now a billion-dollar industry, generating billions in revenue for illicit criminal organizations from their millions of U.S. subscribers. For many years, the MPA has worked closely with our law enforcement partners at the IPR Center on a number of successful IP enforcement initiatives to address these illicit activities. And in fact, one of our largest cases happened just a few weeks ago when IPR Center partners were able to successfully shut down the Sparks Group, which was the #1 supplier of high-quality, disk-based pre-retail source piracy in the world. This critical action began with a 2016 referral from the Motion Picture Association and ultimately involved the combined resources of authorities in 18 countries, Europol, Eurojust, and the U.S. Department of Justice, and resulted in the shutdown of over 60 computer servers hosting illicit content in North America, Europe, and Asia, Once again, we thank our IPR Center partners for this tremendous enforcement success. Our partnership announced today, specifically targeting digital piracy, reflects the critical importance of the internet as the primary way in which creative content is now transmitted to people around the world. And also, unfortunately, the way in which IP theft has now evolved and adapted in today's online environment. While there are now hundreds of legitimate streaming services providing access to legal content throughout the world, there are also hundreds of illegal services operating just as openly. According to some statistics, in 2017, there were an estimated 47 billion online instances of piracy of movies and nearly 184 billion instances of piracy of television programming. In fact, research shows that illegal streaming is now 80% of all piracy, costing the U.S. economy nearly $30 billion in lost revenue each year and between 230,000 to 560,000 jobs. This historic agreement will allow us to continue our collaborative work with the IPR Center to address the continued threat of digital piracy and to protect consumers as well as the many creators, storytellers, and behind-the-scene workers that the television and film industry supports. So we are honored to join you today to sign this MOU. And with that, I think I will take this opportunity to introduce the public service announcement that will be featuring our very own Steve Francis from the IPR Center. The PSA will educate the public about the dangers of malware and the economic impact of piracy to the creative community.
I'm Steve Francis, the director of the National Intellectual Property Rights Coordination Center with the Department of Homeland Security. We're all staying home more often, so the demand for entertainment is high. Criminals are taking advantage of that by offering illegal services that provide movies, TV shows, and live programming at little to no cost. They are stealing content for these so-called pirate services, paying nothing to the hardworking people who earn their livelihood from making these shows. But there's another reason to stay away from these illegal services. They can deliver malware, harming your financial and cybersecurity. Research has established that pirate websites and streaming devices can expose you to malware. Hackers rely on pirate websites to infiltrate your computer or device, so they can steal your credit card information, bank passwords, and even your identity. The malware can make you vulnerable to ransomware, locking up your valuable data until you pay the criminals what they demand. Hackers use pirate devices and apps to invade your home network and search for personal or financial information on other devices in your home. And here's the worst part. Whenever you plug an untrustworthy device into your network, bypassing your router's firewall, you effectively have invited these criminals into your home. Illegal streaming is dangerous. It profits criminals and it harms the content creators that make the shows that you know and love. Don't be a victim. Stream safely from legitimate sources and check to make sure all the devices in your home are reputable. For more information, visit the National Intellectual Property Rights Coordination Center's website or streamsafely.com. Okay, so
Nice job, Steve.
thank you, sir. So at this time, we'd like to make this ceremony official by signing the Memorandum of Understanding between our two agencies. So it's official. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. But before we conclude, I just want to give a special thanks to so many people that made this event happen. First, a sincere thank you and appreciation to our Office of Public Affairs, the Motion Pictures Association and their communications team, ACE, the Alliance for Creativity and Entertainment, CTAM, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and of course, the great personnel at the National IPR Center. Thank you all very much.